Number 11. Irena Louise Wilson. In late September of 2012, visitors at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Kew, England, heard a loud cracking sound which, at first, they believed was thunder. They then found many branches on the ground and, beneath them, a woman who was in a contorted position. 31-year-old account manager Irena Louise Wilson, originally from New Zealand, had been walking with some of her friends along a path when a Lebanese cedar branch fell on top of her. The hit resulted in Wilson sustaining non-survival head injuries, and it's believed that she died immediately. An inquest was initiated, and there was no mention if strong winds in the area had played a part in the tragic accident. Number 10. Eric Newman. In June of 2020, a Denver man and his daughter were impaled by falling branches after a rare weather event swept through Colorado. Eric Newman and his family were at his mother's house, helping with chores when they were faced with the full force of a derecho. It's a straight-line, rapidly moving storm most common in the summer, and it can cause hurricane-level winds, heavy rains, and flash floods. Those about to be swept by it will often see massive cloud shelves moving towards them. While comparable to the strength of a tornado, the damage caused by a derecho extends along a relatively straight path. Newman's group was still outside when it struck. He and his daughter Caitlin were sitting in a driveway when a spruce in the front yard collapsed on top of them. A branch impaled Caitlin in the leg, but relatives were able to get her to safety relatively quickly. She was subsequently given stitches at a local hospital and released without permanent damage. Newman was also impaled by the collapsing branches, but he was pinned under the spruce for roughly 45 minutes before firefighters were able to free him. Doctors would later tell him he'd been extremely fortunate, as the branch had come within half an inch of piercing his spine. Newman survived, but his recovery included months of home nursing and physical therapy. In the weeks following the accident, he needed surgery again after discovering a 4-inch piece of wood still lodged in his back. His recovery went well, and on the 1-year anniversary of the incident, his family met once more to have a stronger-than-the-storm get-together. Number 9. Elisa Sangeeta Jacobson. In November of 2019, Elisa Sangeeta Jacobson from Boca Raton, Florida, was killed by a falling tree branch. At the time of the accident, she was walking along Northwest 2nd Avenue. She suffered crushing injuries, and by the time firefighters arrived at the scene, Jacobson was already dead. According to her family, the 23-year-old had recently graduated from Florida Atlantic University with a master's degree in business administration. Devastated by her passing, one of her relatives described the young woman as someone who brightened every room she went into. In the incident's aftermath, her family set up a scholarship fund meant to provide young people with educational opportunities. Number 8. Subhradeep Dutta. On Christmas Eve 2019, Minnesota man Subhradeep Dutta and 2 companions were hiking along a marked dirt trail at Muir National Woods Monument, north of San Francisco. As the trio was making their way through the park, 5 giant redwood trees suddenly collapsed. One of them was roughly 4 feet in diameter and measured over 200 feet, meaning that it stood taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It was that tree which collapsed on top of 28-year-old Dutta, killing him on the spot. A woman hiking with him was injured by falling debris but was said to recover after being treated at a California hospital. Following the incident, the area where the redwoods had fallen was closed off to the public. A spokesman for the park called it a very rare and isolated event. He suspected that recent winter storms had likely been to blame for the trees collapsing, as water had seeped into the ground and destabilized their roots. Number 7. Finn Henkel. At the 2015 edition of the Sziget Festival in Hungary, a young man was fatally struck by a falling tree branch while camping in an area that was off limits. He was later identified by a tabloid as 19-year-old German actor Finn Henkel, who'd appeared in a TV series as well as several movies which had aired in Hungary as well. Henkel had ignored warning signs and camped out in a floodplain area outside the festival's limits, which was difficult to approach. Strong winds had broken off the branch which landed on top of him, inflicting critical injuries. The medical crew assigned to the event rushed to the location and tried CPR, but they were unable to revive him. Number 6. Cara Leo. Cara Leo and her husband, Jared Quinteros, were hiking on the Morton Ravine Trail in Boyce Mayview Park, Pennsylvania, in June of 2021. 40-year-old Leo owned a bakery which reportedly specialized in allergy-free wedding cakes. She and Quinteros had 2 children. As they were exploring the scenic area, a massive branch fell on top of the couple, severely injuring both of them. Leo was crushed beneath the weight of the branch and rendered unresponsive. A passerby performed CPR on her until first responders arrived at the scene. Leo was rushed to a Pittsburgh hospital, where she ultimately succumbed to her injuries the following day. Quinteros survived, but the accident had reportedly left him paralyzed. A GoFundMe page was set up for the family with a goal of $2,000, but it quickly rose to more than $100,000. Number 5. Rochelle Hager. In March of 2021, a US TikToker died in Maine after a large tree branch fell on her car while she was on the phone with her partner. 31-year-old Rochelle Rowe Hager worked as a chef and had over 160,000 followers on the social media platform, where she'd upload lip syncs, comedy clips, and pranks. She and her partner, 28-year-old Brittany Lynn Ritchie, would often appear in each other's videos, and the couple were due to be married in the fall. Hager was on the phone with Ritchie, who remembered, "I heard the crash, and then there was nothing." The TikToker had encountered stormy weather as she was driving in Farmington. Strong winds of over 50 miles per hour had broken the branch from a pine tree and sent it flying on top of her SUV, crushing her body inside and killing her instantly. Number 4. Mary Ellen Malloy. A few days before Christmas in 2020, an Irish woman working in Australia suffered fatal injuries after a portion of a tree collapsed on top of the taxi in which she was traveling. Mary Ellen Malloy, originally from County Donegal, had been living in Melbourne for 16 months. She worked as a nurse at the Royal Melbourne Hospital, where she was well respected by patients and staff. She was returning home alongside 2 colleagues, Sarah Fitzpatrick and Aoife Sheridan, when the tree branch collapsed on their taxi. Malloy suffered critical injuries that she was unable to recover from. Fitzpatrick was also hurt, requiring spinal surgery. Sheridan and the taxi's unnamed 38-year-old driver were unharmed. Malloy's remains were subsequently returned to her hometown, where her funeral was attended by over 1,000 mourners. Number 3. Aubrey Primo. On September the 15th of 2019, 24-year-old Aubrey Primo was riding her Harley-Davidson motorcycle on a road in Mansfield, Connecticut. Described as someone who put the needs of others before her own, Primo was working as a patient care technician and studying to obtain her nursing degree at the Three Rivers Community College. The young woman, originally from Coventry, suffered a horrific accident during her ride. According to a police report, she was hit when a large tree limb fell from the right shoulder. The impact was devastating on its own, but it's believed Primo sustained further injuries as she lost control of her Harley. She was pronounced dead later that day. Today's topic was inspired by Becca and Donnie. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Ryan O'Carroll. In August of 2018, while on a surfing trip to Cornwall, Southampton man Ryan O'Carroll was fatally crushed by a rotten tree while attaching a tent to it. O'Carroll, his younger brother Nick, and his wife Stephanie Leal had arrived at Tehedi Country Park late in the evening. O'Carroll suspended a hammock tent from several trees. According to witnesses who'd passed by their campsite, the tent was erected roughly 9 feet off the ground and in limited reach of their cell phone's flashlight. An inquest would later reveal that it was placed at more than double the height that its manufacturers recommended. Furthermore, they were in a non-camping area that was clearly signposted. With the setup complete, O'Carroll then tried to help Stephanie Leal inside the tent. The woman was about halfway in when she heard Nick shouting. Moments later, she was knocked unconscious and woke up trapped in the tent. A family passing by rescued her, at which point she found that her husband had been crushed by the tree. O'Carroll went into cardiac arrest and died of multiple organ failure. In the aftermath, the Cornwall Council stated in a report that they were aware of the rotting tree, adding that under normal circumstances, it would have stood for another year. Number 1. Jessica and Jake Woodruff. In the spring of 2021, Jessica and Jake Woodruff were driving down Route 199 towards the coast in Northern California. The couple, who lived in Wairika with their 5 children, were on a weekend getaway to celebrate Jessica's 45th birthday, a tradition which they'd maintained for years. They were passing through Jedediah Smith Redwood State Park on a clear, pleasant day with no wind. In what would later be deemed as a freak occurrence, a 175-foot tall redwood collapsed in the road and landed directly on top of their Honda Accord. The tree split in half as it struck the vehicle, and the wood rust sustained crushing injuries to which they'd likely succumbed instantly. Considering the weather conditions, officials deemed the chances of a tree collapsing on a vehicle astronomical and couldn't explain what may have caused it to fall. In the aftermath of the tragic accident, a fundraising campaign was launched to provide for their children, who were faced with the harsh reality of having lost both parents. Thanks for watching. Would you rather work for a year as a professional logger, statistically one of the world's most dangerous jobs, or climb a giant sequoia without any safety equipment? Let us know in the comments section below.